I want to tell you about two people I've watched for the better part of 30 years. I'm going to change their names, but I'm not going to change the numbers, because the numbers are the entire point. The first one, I'll call him Marcus. Marcus makes a lot of money. $240,000 a year, last I checked. He's got the house with the 2-story entryway, a new truck every 3 years, a boat that spends more time in the driveway than it does in the water. If you met him at a barbecue, you would walk away certain that this is a wealthy man. He is not. Marcus is 46 years old, and if you added up everything he actually owns and subtracted everything he owes, you'd land somewhere around $11,000. He is one slow quarter at work away from the whole thing coming down. The second one, I'll call her Dana. Dana was a school administrator. In her best year, she made $68,000, and she never made more than that. She drives a Camry that's about 9 years old. She has worn the same winter coat for a decade. And Dana, at 52, has a little over $1.2 million. And she's going to retire 7 years before Marcus even thinks about it. Same country, same economy, same 30 years to work with. One of them earned roughly 3.5 times what the other one earned, and ended up with essentially nothing to show for it. I've spent a long time watching this exact thing happen, over and over, to different people, and almost nobody wants to say out loud why. So that's what I want to do here. I want to walk you through what Dana actually did, because when you see it laid out, it is almost embarrassingly simple. It is not clever, it is not a secret, it is just quiet, and quiet is easy to miss. Let's start with the thing everyone gets wrong, which is income. We are trained from the time we're kids to believe that the path to being rich is earning more. Get the raise, get the promotion, get the better job, and the money problem takes care of itself. But here's what actually happened to Marcus every single time he got a raise. He got the raise, and within about 2 months, his life quietly expanded to swallow it. The raise came with a slightly nicer apartment, then a slightly nicer car to sit in the driveway of that apartment. Every time the money went up, the spending went up right behind it, close enough that he never actually felt richer. He just felt like he was running the same race on a slightly faster treadmill. 30 years of raises, and the gap between what he made and what he kept never got any wider. That gap is the only number that matters, and his stayed near zero his whole life. Dana's income barely moved, but the first time she got access to a retirement plan at work, in her late 20s, she did one thing. On one afternoon, that Marcus never did. She set up an automatic transfer, about $600 a month, pulled straight out before it ever hit her checking account, into a plain, boring index fund. And then, and this is the part that matters, she left it completely alone. I want to actually show you the math on this, because the math is the whole reason Dana wins, and most people have genuinely never seen it. $600 a month is $20 a day. It is not a heroic amount of money. Over 30 years, Dana personally put in about $216,000 of her own cash. That's it. That's all she contributed. But that money sat in the market and earned, on average, about 8% a year, which is nothing special. That's just the boring long-run average nobody gets excited about. And 8% a year, left alone for 30 years, turns her $216,000 of contributions into roughly $900,000. Add in the little bit her employer matched, and the years she bumped it up slightly, and you land right around $1.2 million. She did not pick a single winning stock. She did not time anything. She was not smart about it in any way that would make an interesting story. She just fed the same boring fund, $20 a day, and then got out of its way for 3 decades. Now here is where most people's attention breaks. So stay with me for 1 more minute, because this next part is the actual secret. And it isn't the $600, it's the leaving it alone. In 2008, that account of Dana's fell by about 40%. She watched a huge chunk of her savings evaporate in a few months. Everyone she knew was selling, getting out, cutting their losses. Marcus, who by that point had a small amount in a similar account, panicked and pulled his money out near the bottom, which is the single most expensive thing a person can do. Dana did nothing. Not because she was fearless. She told me later she felt sick about it, but because she had decided years earlier that she was not going to make decisions during a fire. So she didn't look. She let it sit. And that money she didn't touch went on to more than triple over the next decade. The entire difference between Dana and Marcus is not what they earned, and it's barely even what they saved. It is what they did on the worst day. He reacted. She waited. That word, waited, is the one I want you to sit with, because patience here is not some soft, passive virtue. It is the actual engine. The reason compounding builds real wealth is that it needs time, uninterrupted, boring, undramatic time, and the only thing that ever interrupts it is a human being getting scared or getting bored and reaching in to touch it. Dana's real skill was not earning, and it was not investing. It was leaving her hands off the thing while it grew. She measured her money in decades. Marcus measured his in weekends. And this shows up everywhere else in how these two people lived. Every few years there was a new thing everyone was rushing toward. In the late 90s it was tech stocks. A few years ago it was crypto. And everyone at Marcus's office was making, on paper, money that made his salary look like a joke. Marcus chased it. He always chased it, because standing still while other people got rich felt unbearable to him. And most of the time, the thing everyone was shouting about was the exact thing that quietly took his money on the way past. Dana let all of it go by, not because she was disciplined in some superhuman way, but because she'd seen the same excitement 4 or 5 times by then, and she knew how the story usually ended. She would rather miss 100 fast wins than get wiped out by one. So she never had the wreckage to clean up afterward. There's one more thing, and it's the quietest of all, and it might be the most important. Nobody in Dana's life knew any of this. Her neighbors did not know. Her co-workers did not know. She never once mentioned a return, never announced what anything cost, never turned her money into a story she told at dinner. And that privacy was not her being secretive. It was protection. The moment your money becomes something you perform for other people, it stops being a tool, and it starts being a costume. And a costume has to be maintained, and maintaining it is expensive. Marcus's money was a performance his whole life. The truck was for other people. The watch was for other people. The boat was for a version of himself he wanted the neighbors to see. He spent 30 years buying things that shine for an audience that was not actually watching. Dana bought things that grow, told no one, and quietly ended up free. So when people ask me what the difference really is, I don't say income, because you just saw that income was the thing Marcus had and it didn't save him. The difference is that Dana made about 4 decisions in her entire life. She decided to automate the saving so she'd never have to rely on willpower. She decided to keep her spending flat even when her pay went up. She decided not to chase the loud thing. And she decided, in advance, that she would not sell in a panic. 4 decisions, made calmly, years apart, and then honored for 30 years. That's it. That is the whole fortune. Now, whenever I lay this out for someone, I get the same 4 questions, so let me just answer them, because they're good questions and they deserve straight answers. First one, is 8% even real, or did I make that up to sell you a story? It's real, and it's actually the conservative number. The American stock market, over the last 100 years or so, has returned about 10% a year before inflation, if you count dividends. I use 8 because I'd rather promise you less and have the math still work. But here's the honest part. Nobody puts on the poster. That's an average. Some decades are ugly. There were 10-year stretches where the market went essentially nowhere, and there were decades where it tripled. The average only shows up for the person who stays through both. Dana got 8% because she was there for all of it. Marcus never got the average because he kept leaving in the bad years and coming back in the good ones, which is exactly backwards. Second question. What about inflation? Won't $1 million be worth less in 30 years? Yes, it will. Prices roughly double every 25 years or so Dana's money will not feel like $1 million feels today. But run the same numbers in today's dollars, with inflation already taken out, and she still lands somewhere around $700,000 in real purchasing power, off a school administrator's salary. And notice something, inflation was eating Marcus too. It eats everyone. The difference is that inflation punishes people who hold cash and rewards people who own things. And Dana spent 30 years quietly converting cash into things you own. Sitting still in cash felt safe to Marcus. It was the most expensive thing he ever did. Third, what happens if the market crashes right when you retire? This one has a boring answer too. In the last several years before she stopped working, Dana slowly moved about 5 years of living expenses into dull, stable stuff. Bonds, cash, things that don't swing. So if the market falls apart the year she retires, she simply spends from that pile and waits, and the rest stays planted. She built herself a hallway so she'd never have to sell the good stuff during a fire. That's it. That's the whole trick. And the fourth question is the one people are usually actually asking. It's too late for me, isn't it? I'm 45. I have nothing saved. This ship has sailed. So, let's just do the math instead of guessing. Say you're 45, and you can find $1,200 a month, which usually means a smaller car payment and one honest look at what you actually spend. $1,200 a month at 8% for 20 years is about $700,000. At 65, starting from zero. It's not Dana's number, but it is a completely different life from the person who spent those same 20 years deciding it was too late. I think the reason this feels so hard is that we've been sold the opposite story our whole lives. We've been told that wealth is loud, that it looks like the truck and the watch and the big year, but the truth is almost boring. The people who actually end up free tend to be the calm ones, the patient ones, the ones you'd never pick out of a crowd, doing 4 or 5 quiet things and then simply refusing to interrupt them. You don't need to be Dana. You don't need to be some monk with superhuman discipline. You need to make the boring decision once, set it to run on its own, and then find a way to leave it alone while time does the only thing time reliably does for the patient. Start with $20 a day, if that's what you've got. Automate it tonight, before you can talk yourself out of it. And then, for the love of everything, stop checking it. Go live your life. Come back in 20 years. The quiet ones aren't lucky, and they're not special. They just figured out, early, that the calm was the strategy the whole time.